Warning! The content provided to you in this episode may be viewed as offensive to some. If you or anyone you know is offended by this or the bulk of this podcast, we recommend going to your nearest religious institution or windowless room where the ills of the world cannot harm your piteously fragile way of thinking. You have been warned. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of I Am Heathen, and So Can You. I am your host, Mjolnir pornographer, Odin fetishist, hovel mall owner, and definitely still not a fucking Viking when last I checked, Einar. I've been a heathen now for 10 years, and I'm coming up on my 11th year walking this path. And while I will continually harp on the fact that stating your time on the path is the furthest fucking thing from a flex. Because I'll be absolutely straight when I say this, I have a tendency of looking at people cockeyed when they're like, I've been a heathen for 25 years. No one cares, bro. And to quote a certain friend of mine, you never stop learning. You could be a heathen on the path for 45 years, and some dude who's only been at this for a year can pick up on a piece of information you never found. You don't stop learning. You don't stop growing. That is one very interesting piece of truth that I have used to temper myself and make myself a better heathen and a better person. And I have to say that with the fact that I'm coming up on my 11th year in heathenry, I've gotten to doing an extremely heavy load of reflection. And it's not that I haven't done this before, but the reflection has gotten, in all sincerity, a good deal more in depth. And while I love discussing the lore, I love discussing ritual with my fellow heathens, I do like helping and fostering the growth of people new on their path. And I had said to myself many a time, what would I say to me in 2010? No, sorry, I became a heathen in 2015. What would I say to me in 2015? That guy who had an obsession with all things Viking, that guy who loved Norse mythology. What the fuck would I say to him? And flash forward 11 years, I've only just now started to come up with what I can deem a somewhat passable answer. And frankly, there's a lot. There's so much that I would say to my younger self. What to watch out for, how to properly conduct yourself without making yourself sound and act like an absolute fucking eel. Because if you've known me long enough and you've heard my voice and we've interacted in one way or another, I've done something to make myself look like a jackass in somebody's eyes. But that's neither here nor there. I sat back writing down some bullet points of if I could sit with my younger self in a room and just share a list of things I wish I knew before I started walking this path, what I would share with him, what I would share with younger me. And I would have to sincerely say that one of the first things I would have to share is be fucking patient. I know that doesn't exactly sound like a spiritual tenet, but be patient. When I first started truly constructing an altar and sitting there in front of I felt everything. My mind was open. That veil had finally been lifted from my eyes, and I felt like a completely and utterly different person. I'll never forget taking a picture of my altar as one of my candles was burning out and being reduced to tears as I saw the face of an old man with one eye in the smoke. It was that moment that made me realize that this is where I'll die. I may have been born Jewish, and while my family is still Jewish, I will die a heathen. I will die knowing that I found truth that absolutely resonated with me and changed my life for the better. I would also say to myself that you can't win over everybody. I would say to myself that not everybody is going to come out and support your new sense of spirituality with open arms. In fact, you will be potentially fucking hated for it. I can say now that I have certain members of my own family that, while they have the temerity to not publicly voice their disapproval, it's there. While honestly, that truly does suck, the family members that have pulled me aside, asked me questions, and said, if this is what makes you happy, if this is what gives you that sense of peace, that's all that matters. And if you are a new pagan out there and you've just recently told your family, I want you to listen to that piece of advice. If you're not supported in your religious choices, ask yourself the question, is being on this path delivering to me the truth that the path of my family didn't deliver? And if you can answer yes, you know damn well that this is where you belong. And if you answered yes, welcome home. One of the very big things that I always quote is a piece from founder of the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey. Place your faith in a religion that has your best interests at heart, mine or otherwise. Now, I used to say, I don't care how you got here. I'm glad that you're here. But after mulling through this and realizing that I have that sense of certainty that being a heathen is where I belong, I've sort of altered that to, not only do I not care how you got here, I care that you're here, but now that you are here, did you make the right decision walking this path? And if I were looking at my younger self, the brand new heathen 11 years ago, I'd smile at him and say, I'm proud that I made the right decision walking this road. I have made friends. I have gained and lost love. I have experienced more in the past 10 years than I have in my entire life. Another thing that always sticks out to me super hard is the appreciation of nature. Now, I grew up in New York City. I look out my window, the first thing I see is the Manhattan skyline, and if there's not a bunch of pigeons flying around, they're planes in the sky, I don't have much in the way of these grand, sweeping, picturesque views of the woods. So what do? I find nature. I go hiking. I picked up hiking, and as much as people can say, I love New York is my city, this is my place, New York is one hectic motherfucker. And I don't know how people go through their lives not leaving New York every so often just to decompress. Everything is hustle and bustle, everything is move, 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 go, go, go. But when I'm out in nature, the world slows down. When I'm out in nature, I can just close my eyes for a second and hear nothing. And if it's not nothing, I could hear the sound of wind in the trees, a rabbit stomping through the underbrush, but that's it. For my urban pagans out there, find nature. Go out, look for places to go hiking, look for some places where you can be out in nature by yourself and disconnect from the world. Another thing that I think is really important to touch on is the importance of community. For the longest time, I walked alone. For the longest time, I paganed to myself. And when I finally picked up the Havamal and I read that verse, I was young once and I wandered alone and I became lost on my way. I felt like a rich man when I met another traveler. People's joy is in other people. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to meet more people who were like me. And through a fuckload of ups and downs, through a fuckload of trials and tribulation, you come to understand that the community at large is not your community. It's those people you meet on this path who continue to stand by you, the people who continue to show you love, the people who, in your darkest hour, will be the ones to provide you that light. And it's that sense of community, that sense of these people are my friends. I can rely on these people if I need them, and they can rely on me if they need me. It's fucking beautiful. And while a lot of us are scattered to the four winds, we know that when it is available and opportune, we can meet, we can hang, we can enter ritual and hold bloat and just be together as pagans. Fuck, that sounds so good right about now. You'll also come to understand the longer that you're on this path, you will develop a greater sense of social awareness. You will develop a greater sense of morality and moral outrage. When I first started walking this path, because born Jewish, I want to know what kind of hate groups are out there so I know what to deal with if I have to deal with them, which deal with them means avoiding them like the fucking plague. I researched all of the things that made our community look bad, all of the people that took our faith and perverted it, all of the people who, in all sincerity, turned around and made our faith terrible. I learned why they hated, how they hated, what they did, and who they did it to. And when I was out and about in the wilds of pagan social media, I called these people out left, right, and fucking center. And while I believe that peace is important and you need to find that peace, you do have to stand up for what it is you believe in every now and again. And because of my faith, I honestly believe that I have become far more socially aware than had I not embraced this. You'll come to understand and also develop a far deeper respect for death and a far deeper respect for those who have come and gone. This faith places such a heavy importance on ancestor veneration and worship and respect of those who have come and those who are no longer here. And I find myself missing my grandparents more and more. I find myself missing people who have played such an important part in my life and they've passed. And I find that missing them, that sense of absence, that ache is so much stronger, but it also somehow helps me push a little harder in my day-to-day life. It helps me be a little stronger because it's the truth when they say that no one's ever really truly gone. And you look back on the things you learned from these people, the things that these people instilled in you, and you carry that strength with you, and it truly does make you an honest to goodness better person. Hospitality is another thing for me, at least, because I've been a chef longer than I've been a pagan, and when heathenry and hospitality decided to have a screaming leather-clad baby with a lightning hammer, it gave me a greater sense of pride in my work and a greater sense of pride in the things that I do. And for whatever reason, it did and continues to hearten me. I feel so good being able to take care of people, being able to feed people, cook for people, teach people how to cook. It's something that I never expected, but I think it's one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from this faith, from my faith, from the things that I've done and learned. And the one other thing that I would tell my younger self, the one thing that I think my younger self has to understand more than anything. And if you know me and you've known me long enough since my first appearance on TikTok, Christ, 6 years ago at this point, you know how true this is. You can't save everybody. You can't win everybody over. Despite how much you think you're this wheeler and dealer politician, brown nosing motherfucker, you just can't win over everybody. But the people you do win over, that's your community. The people you win over and the people who stay, that's your fucking community. The one final piece of advice was given to me fairly recently. And this goes for a lot of people in pagan and witchy spaces on social media. Live with your spirituality, not for it. Now, this piece of advice fucked with me. This piece of advice, for the longest time, I sat there pondering like a son of a bitch. And it finally sat with me, and I'm like, this is the best piece of advice I've ever gotten. I created pagan content. That pagan content inspired me to dig deeper into my faith, to learn more, to be a better pagan. But when I finally decided to walk away from Norse talk, because of all the lunacy that occurred there, I found myself unsure of what the fuck to do. And I realized that I was living for my faith. I was never I was never living with it. I was never integrating it into my daily life. I was, however, integrating it into my daily life for the views and judgment of others. And I think that's where we're going to leave off. Learn to live with your spirituality, not for it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all the time we have for today. And honestly, I am glad that I am back on the mic. The passing of Charlie Kirk, September 11th, with 9/11 also being my mother's birthday. It's a very tough couple of days in my family. And I contemplated taking a brief little break just to center myself, Brief little breaks for the sole purpose of just focusing and doing me. And then I realized that parking my ass in a chair and talking to this fucking microphone is so peaceful, so cathartic to just talk and let go. And I said to myself, you know what? Fuck this. I cannot and I will not stay away. I'm also delighted to fucking report that I am going to be dropping a Patreon, both for this podcast and the cooking content you have seen if you follow me on TikTok and Instagram. We're going to keep things extremely low priced, extremely, extremely accessible. I think the most expensive Uber tier is going to be $10 a month. Everything's going to range from $2 to $5 a month. Perks are going to be good. Perks are going to be nice and long standing. One of them, for example, if you pledge $1 a month, you get a shout out at the end of every one of these episodes on both I Am Heathen and once I finally get around to fucking Geek Speak, which also, speaking of which, Geek Speak, we're finally going to be getting into it in full. That first recording I did was a practice run. I know the flow, I know what I want, and we're gonna get out there and we're gonna fucking do it. Gods, can you tell I'm fucking excited? It's 3:36 on a Sunday in New York, and I'm out here just rolling. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with us in a more personal way, you can find me on Instagram at Chef Einar Blackthorn, and I Am Heathen Pod. That's I Am Heathen POD. You can also find me on TikTok at Chef Einar Blackthorn and I Am Heathen POD. And with that said, tune in every Thursday. New episodes drop at 7 a.m. So if you want this episode hot and steamy dropped into your lap, get your ass out of bed and give us a listen. All right, everybody. With that said, I am your host, Odin fetishist, Havamal owner, and occasional mead enjoyer. I need to work on better nicknames. Einar, signing off. This has been a Blackthorn production.